David with Beagles on Fire. We're in this series on types of dogs, types of beagles we talk about. Yesterday we were talking about trash runners. And if you haven't seen that, I'd go back and watch that and give you an idea of what we were talking about and how we applied that. Today we're going to talk about tail-on-them dogs. Tattletales, tail-on-them dogs. That's simply a dog that when others run trash will come back and tell on the ones that are doing wrong. And you know the word tattletale or tail on them is, as we were raised as kids, is not, we weren't supposed to be tattletales. And so, you know, we used to as kids come back, "Mommy, she hit me," and stuff like that, trying to tell on somebody to get somebody in trouble. It was almost like you were doing that more so to get the person in trouble than you were because anything had actually happened to you. That's kids, but unfortunately there's a lot of adults that never grow out of that. They can't wait to go tattletale some gossip on what somebody has done. And so it still goes on, unfortunately, in the world a lot. A lot of people love drama. They love telling somebody else's misfortunes and mistakes. And that's not the way that we ought to be as people. Let me describe what a tell-on-'em dog or a tattletale dog is in the beagle world. It's a good thing in the beagle world. So when you're out running your dogs, and we talked about trash runners. So what's the fastest way to know that you've got a trash runner and you've got a problem going on? Well, if you have a tell-on-'em dog or a tattletale, it will go to that dog that has started barking and chasing the wrong thing, what we call trash, and will immediately make a beeline back for you and come back, and usually they'll come flying back to you when the quote-unquote race is going on, but it's the wrong race, and will come flying back to you, and some of them will actually start scratching on your pants leg like a cat on a scratching post, like what they're trying to tell you is, "Daddy, Daddy, that's wrong, and I'm not there doing it. Don't shock me." And so it's a good thing to know when you have a tattletale dog, because you'll immediately know that the wrong thing is being run. The dogs that I trust like that, pretty much any dog that you see me put out there with young dogs is a dog that I trust that way. If I hear their mouth in the race, I don't care where the dogs go, how far out they go, I know that they're running a rabbit. And that's very important when you're running like swamp rabbits or something that can go plumb out of hearing distance. You would swear they're kind of running a deer or something, but because of how far they've went. But that's the way a swamp rabbit sometimes will run. And you know, yesterday we didn't talk about this, but just a couple of little tips. That if you did not have a tell-on-'em dog, a totally broke dog, how would you know if they're running some trash like a deer? Well, this is not a always, and this is not a for sure 100%, but it's pretty accurate. If you hear a race going on and you're not running anywhere near a swamp, and in an area that does not have swamp rabbits, and you hear a race that is just absolutely non-stop, no breakdowns at all, and they go way out there, then there's a good chance that that's a deer. Okay, it's not a definite, but if you're having breakdowns in your race, I'm not saying there's not a day when you can't go out there and just absolutely burn a rabbit up and not have any letdowns, but on most every race that you have with a rabbit, there will be a breakdown. It might only last a few seconds, but it will not be just hammer, hammer, hammer nonstop most of the time. It might go, you know, wide open, and all of a sudden there's a little break for a few seconds, and then they pick it up and go again. If they're running deer, trash like that, there typically will not be any let up whatsoever. And then you can also look to see, if you're using your GPS, are they running pretty much a straight line? That's another dead giveaway as a good possibility they're running a deer. But my favorite way to know that they are running the wrong thing is that tattletale, tell on them dog. And I've had some dogs over the years that would tell on some dogs. The thing is, if you've got a tattletale dog and you're dealing with dog jockeys and guys that are dog traders, you take your tattletale dog with you. That'll tell you what you need to know about this so-called broke finished dog they have. Because a lot of them want to tell you, they're guaranteed, they won't run anything wrong. Well, if you've got that dog, you can totally depend on, you can just put it down. And if a guy will not let you take your dog with you to watch his dog run that you're looking at, that's a red flag. Anybody that won't let you watch the dog run in the wild prior to purchase is somebody that I would shy away from. And I also would not watch the dog run in a pen. I would make him take it to the wild. There's a lot of people out there that do a lot of things to try to deceive, which is unfortunate. And but if you ever want to come and watch any dogs I have run and you want to check your dog's speed with them, that's never a problem with me. I'm always going to have down a tattletale dog in the group. So it'll tell on any of my dogs that run the wrong thing, if I had a young one that was running the wrong thing. And it'll also tell on anybody else's dogs. I've been with guys before, and they swore up and down that they had, some dogs that were totally deer broke. And I'm not putting anybody's dogs down at all. I'm not saying that they didn't have good dogs, but their dogs did run something wrong. And dog come back that I owned, and I started shocking my other dogs. I said, "What are you doing?" I said, "They're not running a rabbit." "Oh, yeah. I said, "No, this dog right here would not be back if they were running a rabbit." So that kind of sums up what a tattletale dog is. It's one that will go out there. It's true to rabbits only, and it will come back and tell on them if anybody runs the wrong thing. Now, how do we apply this? We started talking a little bit about how people just love to, find fault with someone and maybe come back and tattletale a bunch of gossip and stuff. But how are we supposed to be? We're supposed to be like the tell on them dog or tattletale dog in regards to, we are to stay true to what we're supposed to run. And we're supposed to run after the things that are good. Those fruit of the Spirit that we talked about and those other things, that's what we're to run after. We're to run after what would be the right thing to do. Run after the things of God. And if we run after the things of God, there's going to be others that are going to want to run off on trash. Now, we should not come back and just start running our mouth and telling everybody else about, such and such did this. And, I just can't wait to tell everybody how bad of a thing he did. We really ought to just live our life and lead by example and show that we're not going to run that trash. I'm not a person that wants to stand out there on the corner and preach at everybody else that may be doing something that I don't agree with as far as that's wrong. I'm not saying it's not a time to stand up and say this is not right. There are times to do that, but I believe in general terms, we just people out there. One thing with family and close friends, you might feel the need to say something to that, hey, this is not right. We don't need to do it. Obviously, I would tell my kids, this is not right. Had that discussion several times with my children about, this is not right. If everybody else is stealing stuff at the store, in an example, my kids were never thieves at the store, but just use an example. If everybody at the store was taking stuff, does that make it right for you to take it? No, you need to be different even if you're the only one do the right thing. So it's that general principle there. It doesn't mean that we're supposed to be tattletales as far as we're supposed to run around and spread a bunch of gossip about a bunch of people doing the wrong thing. Even if it's the truth, you can do more damage to someone. It's better to restore that person if possible. And one thing about it is the people out there that are running the wrong thing, most time they know they're running the wrong thing. Most of the time, not always, but most time they know that. And when you don't run it, they're going to see something different in you than what they were. And if they keep seeing that consistency, then they're going to notice there's something about you that's a little different, and hopefully they're going to want what it is that you have. there are some times when young dogs just go out and run trash, and hey, it was just something to run. We just needed something to do. We just ran it. And there's other times when there's dogs that were smart enough to know not to run the deer, and they realized they were running the wrong thing, and they were embarrassed by it. I'll give you an example. I had a dog, and it was a beautiful, beautiful black and white with some specks. It was Dynamite's sister, and her name was Cutie Pie. Cutie Pie was just a phenomenal, phenomenal dog. At 12 months old, I made a trip down to Louisiana, and we actually went to a place where a man had a pen, a high-fenced deer pen that was, I think it was 800 acres. There were deer everywhere. And we actually went in there and went rabbit hunting. And Cutie Pie never touched a deer in there. She was actually outperforming some of my 2- and 3-year-old dogs with her ability. I mean, just this phenomenal dog that I had very high hopes for and was just really crazy about. And had just a fantastic hunting trip in Louisiana, came back, had some guys from Alabama that were wanting to come up and just see what these dogs were running like, and didn't have anything for sale, but they just wanted to come and watch. So we went out, and I took some of the young dogs I had. I took Cutie Pie, and Cutie Pie and all of them put on a show. It's one of those rare days when, normally when people come, that's the days you have the toughest times running. Usually your best running will be when nobody else is around to see it. In life is that way sometimes too. Sometimes some of the best things we do, no one witnesses, but that's okay. We just need to do the right thing because God sees all things, and he knows when we're doing our best, even if no one else does. And that's probably good to keep us humble that nobody else sees when we really do something that's spectacular. But anyhow, back to Cutie Pie. They had put on a show, and we're doing fantastic. And we were headed back to the truck, and somebody jumped something. Thought it was a rabbit. Hadn't had any trouble at all morning. And they took off, and this was before GPS collars, before I had GPS collars. And so they were out there a ways. I could tell, and that don't seem right. And all of a sudden, a dog come back, and I said, okay, something's not right here. And so I started bumping everything I had and getting it back. And there was no Cutie Pie. And there was another dog I had that was a finished dog named Sugar. And she wasn't back. And so we were a little ways from the truck. And I bumped Cutie Pie and hurt her. And I said, guys, we got to get to the truck. She's up there near the road. So I got all the dogs to the truck, went over to load them all in the truck, drove down the road just a little bit, and stopped and called and toned and bumped, and I heard her yip. And I said, okay, she's 50 yards or so away. She'll be right here. No Cutie Pie. And so I toned again, and I hit the collar, and she was about 150, 200 yards away, it sounded, and was moving away from me, which was not like Cutie Pie. And so even though it was property I didn't own, I said, I'm going to go get my dog. I didn't have any gun on me or anything, wasn't hunting. And so I went on down there and kept calling and kept toning and never could get a response from her. And so I had some other guys coming from Louisiana to look at a dog that they had scheduled to see. And so I thought, well, I'll just start another race. And when we get the race going over there, because that property joins me, when we get the race going, Cutie Pie will join in and I'll get her back that way. No problem. Well, we went and had a big race, and no Cutie Pie. I looked for her that night, and it was very tough, but I had to call off my search. I'd done everything I knew to do. And so couldn't sleep real good. My favorite dogs is out, can't get her back. I went the next morning. I'm riding all over trying to get her, and cannot get a response. Drove around all my roads, ended up driving down a road that was probably from the point of loss to where this was probably 5 or 6 miles. And as I drove down the road, I had a terrible experience as I saw Cutie Pie in the middle of the road and had been hit by a car. And I just surmised what probably happened. I don't believe Cutie Pie was running a deer because she had had every opportunity, had turned down deer, had come back, and when other dogs would run deer. I believe they got on something like a bobcat or a coyote or something like that. And I think Cutie Pie knew that she had messed up. That's the only reason she wouldn't come to me. I think she knew she had messed up, and so she kept trying to get further away from me out of embarrassment. And you know, if she would have just come to me, she would have been received with love and forgiveness and loaded in the box, glad to see her. But instead, she chose to run further from me. Don't understand why. She'd never been mistreated or anything like that. But this paints a very vivid picture of our lives. Sometimes we go out here and we know better than to run to the trash of life, but we do it. And then when God starts to deal with us and wants to restore us and bring us back, we want to run further. We think, well, I messed up. God's not going to want to love me now. Those people over there are not going to want to love me now. They're not going to want to forgive me. I messed up, so I'll just keep running. And as we run, we get out there into more dangerous grounds, and we end up possibly getting hit by a car, so to speak, in life because we would not come back to where we knew. Cutie Pie knew who I was. She knew who was trying to call her. But she was so smart, she knew she had messed up. And I'll always believe that. But it paints such a vivid picture of the way we live our lives a lot of times when we go out and run the trash of the world, and then instead of asking for God's forgiveness and coming back to Him and being restored, or maybe making things right with someone that we should make things right with because it would require us admitting we were wrong and we're too embarrassed by that. So what we do is we just run away from it, and we stay away, and we never restore that relationship. How sad of a life is that? When if the person that you ran from is what they ought to be, they will gladly forgive you and restore you and help you to go on the right path. Just like I would have received Cutie Pie back, would have restored her back in the kennel, and absolutely had a fantastic time running her and raising pups out of her. She was going to really be a dog that was very well known in my kennel. But she was cut down short because she chose to get away from the one who loved her. Do not run from God. He loves you. You may mess up. We all mess up. But you know what? God is big enough to forgive us and restore us. So don't be embarrassed to the point that you don't come back. Whatever's going on, whoever it is that you've done something wrong with, just restore to that and find yourself renewed and refreshed and forgiven. It's great to lose those chains and not have to carry that with you the rest of your life. But don't get out there and get so-called hit by a car because you refused to come back to who was calling you. I hope this has made sense on the tattletale dog and tell on them dog versus the trash runner. And I hope that what you take from this is that we don't need to delight in other people's troubles and misfortunes and bad mistakes, that we go spread rumors and maybe even truths about them, but it does not help. But I hope that you will restore anyone who has done that. I hope you'll set the example by turning down the trash in life that is out there that's so tempting for each of us to run. And I hope this has benefited you today. I'm up here at my office. We've had a stormy day. The power was flickering on and off, but I'm glad that we got through with this without any interruptions. We'll be back at it again. It may be Monday. The weekends get pretty tough, but it may be Monday that we will talk about the next dog. I've still got several of them on there, so we'll pick out one and talk about it. If you've enjoyed this, feel free to share it, and I hope you got something out of it. Y'all have a fantastic Friday and enjoy your weekend.